there's great news for one of the players I am most excited to watch this fall.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time. Once again for Locked On Ducks, I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day and your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks. Tons to get to on today's show. Makai Hughes, Dante Moore, more Oregon trivia. Yeah, it's all coming up on the pod today. And we start with a guy who I am not joking when I say, as we get closer to the season, every day that goes by puts like another coin in the proverbial penny machine or whatever. That wasn't my best metaphor. To fill my excitement level and raise it for Dakorien Moore, because there are a lot of wide receivers that can contribute for this passing attack, and I'm curious to hear who you guys all think will be Oregon's leading receiver this year. It'd be pretty awesome if it was Dante Moore. That's not to say that Justice Lowe or Gary Bryan or Malik Benson can't all be good. I like those guys. I do, and I love the depth of this Oregon receiver room. Jeremiah McLaughlin could have a good role. I have liked him since he got to Oregon's campus last year. Dakorien Moore is in such a great spot that however much excitement, anytime I bump into Oregon fans and just ask them, like, who are you excited to see? Oh, well, Dakorien, like, pops up a lot. It pops up in my head a lot. He's in such a great position to where early in the season, nothing is going to be needed of him. Now, you and I might have expectations for him, but to say that there is pressure on him, or that Oregon needs him to step up or needs him to get acclimated to the college game right away, which he seems pretty capable of doing, that's just not factually accurate. And so for Oregon to have so much veteran depth behind him, in addition to he plays a position where I think he's going to be able to get on the field and have a sizable role in the offense this year, I'm stoked about it. I really am. And I think about the other freshmen that stood out last year across college football that were five-star receivers. Ryan Williams eased into things a bit, popped against Georgia, right? Had the big game. Also had some really down games statistically. Cam Coleman at Auburn, there was a need there. He had a good season, not as strong of a year as he'll have this season. Jeremiah Smith, even at Ohio State, was kind of just known for one-handed catches in the first part of the year. I think we all remember he got better at everything else as the season went on, and frankly was always pretty good at it to begin with. So Dakorien Moore is in such a perfect spot. And this question came from one of my Locked On Ducks insiders out there, which you can be as well. Links in the description below for a free 14-day trial. Which player has the most pressure on him? I would argue now with Evan Stewart out, Dakorien Moore is the answer there. Being a freshman and expected to step into the number one wide receiver role, what say you? On Spencer's scale of agreement, that's a 2. And I'm so happy about that because even really talented guys, I think about slightly different because he played up front, Kayvon Thibodeau. If you think about what he was the first half of his true freshman season and the second half, by the Pac-12 title game, he was the best player on the field. Early in the season, I'm pretty sure he was splitting snaps. Now, receiver is easier to make the jump from high school to college than defensive line, but the general concept I think applies. And so I think that'll happen for Dakorien Moore, like a lot of players on this Oregon team. By game 10, I think you're going to see a much different but improved version of that guy or a unit or the team as a whole than what you'll see in week 2. So, yeah, I don't think there's pressure on Dakorien Moore at all, which is great because kid can just show up and be the best he can be, and Oregon doesn't have a huge need. But hey, if he pops right away, dude, I will be over the moon excited if he starts going bonkers. To answer your question, who's got the most pressure? It's Dante Moore. And I did follow up and say, hey, are we excluding Dante Moore? No, you can include him. I think it's Dakorien. No, it's Dante Moore. He's the biggest question for Oregon going into this year. There are other questions on the team. Dante Moore is the biggest one. How much does he throw it to Dakorien Moore? Drop your stat predictions in the comments below. Why did I... Oh, below has an L in it. I was wondering why an L got in there. Anyway, lots of great questions coming on today's show. Liam sends this one in. Spencer scale of agreement. Mekhi Hughes has multiple games with 200-plus total yards this season. Do you know the last time... I do because I looked. Believe it or not, I do prepare for this show. Crazy, I know. But the last time an Oregon running back had over 200 yards total in a game, I'll give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I wish you'd asked this as a trivia question. I think I would have gotten it right. The answer is Travis Dye, who did it twice in the 2021 season. He did it against Washington. He did it against Cal. Those were the only games he ran for over 100 yards. He went for 145 against Cal and 73 yards through the air. I checked the math before I came on here because I wasn't a math major in college. That's over 200 total yards. And then against Washington in that rain game up in Seattle, he ran for 211. So that's the last time an Oregon running back went for 200-plus yards of total offense. And has anyone been unhappy with the talent in the running back room over the last few years? I haven't been. Bucky Irving's having a better NFL career than I thought he might. Dude's a stud. Jordan James, we know, is really good. None of those guys got there. So, multiple games? Now, is Mekhi Hughes as talented as Travis Dye? Yes. Will this offense produce a running back game with 200-plus yards on multiple occasions? I feel less confident about that. So this is not a reflection of Mekhi Hughes, but Mario Cristobal was quarterback option run with Anthony Brown. Will Stein, RPO, not as run-centric necessarily. I hope the run game's better this year than it was last year. But I'm putting a 2 on that one. Like that's just a high bar, but for different reasons. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a bad thing that I don't think Hughes gets there. It's a function of Oregon having a lot of playmakers and not needing to give. In 2021, remember, CJ Verdell and Travis Dye were splitting the carries, and then Verdell got hurt. And so Travis Dye had to get that many touches sometimes because they couldn't throw the ball down the field because they didn't have another complimentary running back. Well, this team doesn't have that problem because Noah Whittington is a really good number 2 back. And they do have the receiver and quarterback talent to throw the ball down the field. So I'd love to see it happen. It'd be great, but I'm certainly not expecting that. Travis Dye had 300-yard games in that 2021 season. He also had games of 92, 96, and 99. Pretty close. Pretty close. One more, and there are plenty more coming up on today's show. Speaking of the aforementioned CJ Verdell, did I put this Spencer scale of agreement take in there by accident? No, I did not. Philly Rothstein says CJ Verdell doesn't get mentioned enough as one of the best backs we've had. Look, he was productive. I don't think he had a unique skill set that transcended him and gave him the ability to put up stats that no one else could have. Am I trying to sit here and tell you he's bad? No. Would I rank him as a top 5 Oregon running back just in my lifetime that I've watched? Also no. So one of the best, I think he gets overlooked in how good he was in that Cristobal system and how that was very much a downhill, one cut back sort of offense, and he fit that very well. So I'm not going to drop this down to like a, low, really, really low scale of agreement, but doesn't get mentioned enough as one of the best backs we've had. Like, what about CJ Verdell? What Travis Dye got in there, put up the same or better numbers. I think a lot of backs could have succeeded behind that offensive line. CJ Verdell was good, no doubt. So I'll give that one a 4. Because I did like Verdell, but would I have him as a top 5? I mean, Oregon's just had so many good running backs. Like, I don't think you'd go back even looking at the numbers and say, yeah, Verdell is one of the best that Oregon's had. Like, now when you've had Michael James, Royce Freeman, I was always a big Thomas Steiner guy, Bucky Irving, Jordan James. Like, I always described Jordan James as a better CJ Verdell. And I think they're different in some ways, but Verdell had a little bit more home run speed, but James had a little bit more shiftiness to him. So, yeah, love the running back questions. Because that was one of my, going into media days last week, one of my top 3 questions. Is Oregon's running game going to take a step forward? I hope it does. Kind of needs to. It wasn't good enough last year. We saw that in the Rose Bowl. So let me know your thoughts on all that in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, all of that good stuff. You guys are just loading up the mailbag questions. I tell you what, I love them. I absolutely, positively love them. I would be stunned if this next question gets answered a certain way. First, this episode brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies, that's a good thing to do, or just making memories with friends, also good. This one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off of it, you need a little extra boost to stay sharp and energized. Maybe you want to play 36 holes, something I do frequently. Now, I've played a bunch of golf in my day, so playing 36 holes in a day, standard operating procedure. Last time I did it was Saturday. For others who might be starting out, I know some of you are like that, you might need a little extra boost. If you want to get 2 rounds in a day, that is where the transfusion shot comes into play. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that's the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGolf to get 20% off your order. Best promo code in the history of this network, bar none. This offer is only valid until September 30th, and one order cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, do it. It's always worth it. Get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. Second segment sips are my own personal 5-Hour Energy transfusion shots. So, back into the mailbag we go. The questions are elevating in quality, much like my excitement level is going up and up for the season to get started. I am enjoying summer. I hope you all are as well. Football is just about a month away. Braxton says, Spencer, interested in hearing how surprised or not surprised you'd be if Novosad started week 1. Personally, I'm pleasantly surprised he hasn't transferred. Me too. But maybe he's more in contention for the starting job than I realize. He has one of the best, or he has to be one of the best backups in college if he's QB2. Yes, like I agree. I think he has one of the highest ceilings of a QB2, and I do feel good because he's going into his 3rd year of college football about him being Oregon's number 2 quarterback. That's a good place to be. And forever and always, my ideal backup quarterback is Brian Bennett. You can win games with Brian Bennett. Maybe you're not maximizing your team's potential, but if your quarterback goes out for a couple games like Darren Thomas did in 2011, hey, you can win a couple games with Brian Bennett. That's what I'm looking for. You know, Oregon's quarterback commit in the class of 2026, I compared him to Brian Bennett. And guess what? If he winds up being a starter one day, you can win football games with that. I mean, when Brian Bennett left Oregon, he went down to the FCS ranks. He tore it up. He basically went down and became Vernon Adams. So, bringing this back to your question, I would be fairly stunned if the first snap taken against Montana State at Autzen Stadium, August 30th, in this year, 2025, yeah, I would be pretty stunned. And for a couple of reasons. Number one, Dante Moore is someone who took a very unique path to get to this point to be the presumptive starting quarterback. And I don't think that whether you like this or not, and Lanning talked in the spring about, everything's competition. We're not naming that. He didn't bring a quarterback to media days. That wasn't an accident. He did have some answers and things to say about the quarterback position, and I'll get to that a little bit more in a moment. But you don't bring in a former 5-star recruit who, by a couple services, was the best quarterback in his recruiting class and sit him for a year if you haven't told him you're going to be the starting quarterback, or you'd have to seriously screw up to not. Now, maybe that's not the way it went down. I'd be pretty surprised if it wasn't. So this is certainly the best quarterback depth that Oregon's had in the last couple of years. Will it be the best quarterback season we've seen from Oregon in the Dan Lanning era? Probably not. Probably be the worst one, which is, hey, great news, by the way, because I think Dante Moore probably goes for around 3,000 yards, mid to high 60s completion percentage, mid 20s to low 30s touchdowns. Hopefully he keeps the interceptions under 10. He does that, I'm a happy camper. And Oregon's in the college football playoff, by the way. So that statistically would be the worst season of an Oregon quarterback since Dan Lanning arrived. So for Dante Moore, I don't think he would go on that trajectory if he didn't have a pretty solid assurance he was going to start at Oregon, number one. And then number two, Lanning and the players, they didn't directly mention it. You know, when asked about quarterbacks, Lanning mentioned several guys. Dante Moore's name usually came up first. When you talk to the players who, you know, maybe don't have the same level of media experience or, you know, interview questions or whatnot as Coach Lanning does, there was a tendency in a couple of different moments when I talked to guys or when I heard other people talking to him in Vegas last week, Dante Moore's name usually came up first. So I would be on Spencer's stunnedness. Is that a word? Level of Spencer's stunned? I don't even know where the grammatical needs are for. You get what I'm trying to say. My scale of how stunned I would be, 9.5. Not because I don't think Novosad's good enough to start and talented enough to start. Dude can make throws. Dude can ball. I hope he has a great career one day at Oregon or anywhere else. I really do. Because he seems like an awesome guy. I'm glad he's QB2. But man, if he starts over Dante Moore, my eyes will become as big as jawbreakers. I will be more than a little shocked. So, hope that answers your question. I love that thought, though. Nathan, here's one for the SSA, the Social Security Agency. It's actually administration, Social Security Administration. Sorry, got to call it that because I'm a goofball. Well, you listen to me all the time, so you have to know it takes one to know one. The 5 best under-the-radar breakout candidates are Davey Uli, Blake Purchase, Jurion Dickey, Ife Obadegwu, and Jerry Mixon. My toughest omissions were multiple receivers and Elijah Rushing. Yeah, Mateo was pretty bullish on Elijah Rushing when I talked to him last week. Boy, I like under the radar. Remember, don't overreact to. No, I don't think that he's gonna get under the radar. It's like when you pick. You know, I go through this on Locked On College Football sometimes. I'll say my conference championship dark horse contenders are Georgia Tech and the ACC, my favorite ones. Georgia Tech and the ACC, Illinois and the Big Ten. And then I'll get pushback. Oh, man, this team's not as good as this team on paper. Yes, I know. That's why it's under the radar. So Purchase is a great selection. Played as a true freshman. I'm not entirely certain what happened last year. There might have been an injury. We don't really know. But he didn't hardly play. Dude looked awesome in the spring game. The scoop and score. He is an awesome athlete to have out there on the edge. Jurion Dickey, man, I really hope we don't look back one day and say he's Justin Flo Part 2. 5-star recruit, all the talent in the world. Injury early in his career, never the same after that. It happens. It's football. Can happen in any sport, but if Jurion Dickey doesn't have a decent sized role in the offense this year, that might be what we're looking at in that regard. Ife Obadegwu, I think that's one of Oregon's starting outside corners this year. I've heard a lot of buzz on him, dating all the way back to spring ball. Jerry Mixon, hey, Devin Jackson is reportedly, I believe, limited in to begin fall camp. He didn't participate in the spring game. And I think got dinged up at the end of last season. I think Jerry Mixon looked the best of the other linebackers behind Betcher and Jackson. I know what Bryce Betcher is. He's one of Oregon's most important defensive players. I know what Devin Jackson is. But if Jackson isn't there, I bet it'll be Mixon, who's going into his 3rd year, former 3-star recruit, guy who was, stuck it out. And I'm sure he had chances to transfer. But, man, I tell you, in that spring game, go back and watch the plays he made. He looked big. He looked fast. He looked like a dude. So I like that pick a lot. The Davey Uli one is interesting. I see where you're coming from with the other ones. I think Uli has the same role as he had last year, which is 6th or 7th offensive lineman. In a position, by the way, of non-zero importance, lest we forget that he started several... I just thought of an Ocean's 11 line. My brother's going to laugh at that. He started up at Wisconsin. I think there were a couple other games, too, when Harper was out with an injury and they were shuffling guys around. Uli was darn good. He's been quietly a sneaky productive member of Oregon's offensive line. He had snaps in the Big Ten championship game. Wisconsin, when Harper was out, Uli was mostly the guy. Well, Matthew Bedford got hurt once. I think he's Oregon's starting right guard. If he gets hurt again, insert Davey Uli, and I like that. I feel okay with that. You need 7 or 8 good offensive linemen going into every season. I think Oregon's got that this year. Certainly there are at least 7 I feel really good about. Iuli's one of them. So I don't think, breakout candidate for Uli would be starting over Pranon or Bedford. I think Bedford would be more likely of the 2 coming off an injury there. But, if one of those guys go down with a season-ending injury, hey, Davey Uli's probably one of your 5 starting offensive linemen. Nathan, that was good. That was Davey Uli, Blake Purchase, Jerion Dickey, Ifeoma Badegwu, Jerry Mixon. Those are good picks. Give me your under the radar breakout candidates for this upcoming season. That was fantastic. Really, really excellent. I have a question coming up on today's show that, as I'm recording right now, I don't know how to answer. All right, one more mailbag question before we get to Oregon trivia today. I cannot express in strong enough terms how excited it makes me that you guys all love the trivia and have bought into it so much. Keep sending me the questions. Make sure you have the answers as well to send me the next day, because I'm not looking these up in real time. Scout's honor. I've gotten too many of them wrong. I'd be the crappiest cheater of all time if I did that. You call me like the anti-Houston Astros. Okay, so before I get to the trivia, Colin says, if Nick Saban called the Oregon athletic director and said he wanted to coach at Oregon, would you rather have him or Dan? Oh, boy. I presume in this scenario, there is no world where Dan Lanning ever returns to Oregon. So you'd fire Lanning and hire Nick Saban. How long would you get him for? Can the guy still coach? Yes. I mean, when he retired, he was one play away several times from the national championship game. He probably would have won against Washington. Not guaranteed, but they were going toe-to-toe with Michigan. That was a physical game. Michigan out-physicaled Washington. Bama probably wins. But hey, you never know. It's a different sort of matchup. And Alabama didn't run it like Michigan. I think Bama would have been a better matchup for Washington in that game. So, good thing the Wolverines got the win. So, this is a short versus long-term calculation. I don't think it's honest to say Dan Lanning is a better in-game scheme preparation coach than Nick Saban right now, because Saban's not that far removed from coaching. And there have been, rumors all over the place about Saban returning to this job or the other one. Colin Cowherd was talking about on his show that, Saban could be going to the Browns or something like that. And Saban kind of shut that down. But then Saban, he gave a great line where he said, I don't think there's a job where they would make me return to coaching. But then Miss Terry the other day, his wife, told me that I needed to take the sweeper and go run it through the whole basement. And I thought, well, I never had to do anything like this while I was coaching. That's a good one. Saban's great on TV, by the way. Short term, Saban, long term Lanning, because we don't know what Dan Lanning's ceiling is. We found the floor, and boy, it's a high floor. And I think that floor, frankly, gets reestablished more and more over time. Like, either one of those guys can come to Oregon and they'll be a playoff team or perennial playoff team every single year. But would you get... So my answer is... oh, man. I'm just hesitating before I say into this microphone, no, I don't want the greatest coach in the history of college football. That's a really interesting question. I want to hear what you guys think. Drop in the comments below. Like, say, how old is Nick Saban? This question is taking way longer to answer than I thought. He is 73. Let's say he could go to 77. If he could go to 77, would you trade out Dan Lanning, who has turned down multiple SEC jobs to stay at Oregon, and given that, aside from the Georgia job opening, probably would stay at Oregon as long as we'll have him? Would you turn that down to get 4 years of Nick Saban and see if he could win you a national championship? That is so outrageously difficult. Long, short-term calculation. 50.5% to 49.5%, I'll say no. But man, I've never gotten a question like that before. Like I said earlier on the show today, you guys are crushing it with the questions here. Like I'm genuinely flabbergasted at the moment. Nick Saban for 3 or 4 years, or Dan Lanning for however long you could. Yeah, I barely lean. I barely lean Lanning, and of course I love Lanning. He's awesome, of course, obviously. But Nick Saban's the greatest coach in the history of sport. Let's not overlook that. That's quite the question. All right, let's wrap with some trivia today. So, I had no chance whatsoever. My parents weren't even born when the answer to this question came about. But what Oregon quarterback holds the NFL record with 554 passing yards in a single game? Go back to 1951 and Norm Van Brocklin? Woo! I mean, you think Mahomes or Allen or someone would be... Nope, 554 yards in 1951. I don't know what was going on or who was playing defense. They couldn't have been that much more athletic than me. But hey, that's a great one. The question that I thought maybe was intended to get asked that I ended up posing as the second question on the show yesterday was, what's the Oregon single-game passing record in college, of course? It's a tie. And I said Vernon Adams. I was wrong. So you guys are stumping me a lot with these clues. I love it. I'm here for it. I like learning this sort of stuff. I get most of the Jeopardy clues wrong. I still watch. I have not missed an episode in over 7 years of regular Jeopardy. Bill Musgrave in 1989 against BYU. Justin Herbert in 2016 against Arizona State. 489 yards. Both of them have accomplished that feat. That is the Oregon single-game passing yardage record. Do you think we'll ever see that get broken? Who does it? You tell me. Two trivia clues to wrap today. When did the Oregon Ducks football program first field a team? I know this goes back at least early 20th century. I think it just crept into the 19th century. I'm going to say 1897. No, 96. I'm going to go 1896. And then this one's got a couple of blanks in it. Oh, I see. LaMichael James became the first, second, or third player in conference history with 3 1,500-plus yard rushing seasons and ranks first, second, or third on the Pac-12's career rushing list. The Pac-12, RIP. How many have had 1,500-plus yard seasons? He became, so you have to think, how many had that before? They used to run the ball a lot. And like Marshawn Lynch at Cal, I bet he had one or two. I'll go with fourth with 3 1,500-plus yard rushing seasons. Oh. Yeah, there were some really good backs in that conference way back in the day. Second. I'll go second. And on the Pac-12's career rushing list, I'll go with fourth. I'll go with fourth. These are tough, man. I love it. Keep the trivia questions coming. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. Until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.